This is our video for our Lesson 15 vocabulary words. Our first word is equivocal. Here is the sentence. A great kingdom will fall, the equivocal prophet said, but no one knew which kingdom he meant. So, if we don't know which kingdom the prophet means, then his answer is ambiguous, intentionally vague, uncertain, cryptic. The opposite would be certain or definite. Another way I like to think of this word is sometimes you might ask your mom, "Hey, can I go out with my friends on Friday night?" And she might say, "Maybe." So she's not telling you yes, she's not telling you no, and you're kind of left hanging as to whether or not you're going to be able to do what you want. And I know that can be annoying. Here's a picture to help us remember what equivocal means. If you were driving down the road, which a lot of you are driving or beginning to drive, and you saw this sign, you would be totally confused. It says one way, but you're not sure which way. It's pointing left and it's pointing right. So it's very ambiguous, and you would be totally unsure of what you should do. Our next word is chicanery. It's an interesting word, and it's actually a noun. By the way, equivocal is an adjective. I forgot to mention that. With accounting chicanery, so we're messing with numbers, accounting, some executives falsely, that's your key to figure out what chicanery means, inflate corporate revenues to mislead investors. So the investors in the company think that their money is growing, but the executives have messed with the numbers. And so they are using tricks or clever talk to deceive their investors. So obviously this is not a good thing. Synonyms would be trickery or subterfuge. The opposite would be honesty. So, a perfect picture to illustrate chicanery. This should be familiar to you. The story of the Trojan horse, which we talked about as background information for the Odyssey. Remember, the Greeks hid inside inside the wooden horse. Odysseus, remember, with his cleverness, came up with this idea, and the Trojans brought the horse into the city, thinking that the Greeks had left. And then, of course, at night, Odysseus leads the men in the horse, and they get out and they open the gates of the city, and Troy is burned to the ground, and the Greeks are victorious through the use of chicanery. Our next word is debonair. Debonair. This is a describing word. So debonair was Dennis, so it's telling us something about Dennis, that he made the most complex dance steps seem free and easy. If you are a debonair person, then you're carefree and self-confident in manner. You have lots of aplomb. You're elegant, you're gracious, you're charming, you're refined, you're suave. The opposite is gauche or awkward. I kind of think of Napoleon Dynamite. Again, I mentioned him in class talking about the way Napoleon gapes at everything. Here's a picture for debonair. We've got this gentleman in a tuxedo, a tux with tails. He's very fancy, he's very smooth, he looks like he knows what he's doing. He's confident. He probably feels like any woman that he would approach on the dance floor would be excited to have him ask her for a dance. Debonair. Our next word can be pronounced two different ways. Either way is acceptable. You can say macabre or macabre and leave that RE sound off. So either way is acceptable. It is an adjective. Gothic novels are well known for their macabre stories. So we're describing the type of story. Think of Edgar Allan Poe. Think of Stephen King. These types of stories are horrible, grim, synonym, ghastly, another word we've had this year, sinister. The opposite would be beautiful or lovely. So I put a picture representing the cask of Amontillado. Again, we read this earlier this year, so think about how Montresor seals Fortunato into the catacombs for life. Obviously, a very evil story. Next is genealogy. You should know what this is already. The snooty patrician, so an upper class person, thought her royal genealogy granted her special privileges. So she is a descendant from kings and queens, which makes her think she's better than everyone else. So genealogy is your family history. Synonym would be your lineage. Here's a picture of a family tree. Some of you guys might know your family history. You can actually pay online, ancestry.com or something like that, to research your family genealogy. Next is feisty. This is a fun word. It's an adjective. The movie Rudy tells the true story of a small but feisty young man, so describing what kind of man we have, so it's an adjective, who, against all odds, makes the elite football team at Notre Dame. If you have a feisty character, you're very aggressive, you're lively, you're energetic, you have a lot of spirit to you. Frisky is another synonym. You're not going to let people just run all over you and tell you what to do. You're going to stand up for yourself. The opposite would be lethargic. Somebody who's lethargic is languishing. They have hardly any energy. It seems like they're a zombie almost. Perfect character to illustrate feisty is Mercutio from Romeo and Juliet. Saucy would be another synonym as well for feisty. Think about how Mercutio doesn't like the fact that Romeo is so down about love, and he says, be a man, stand up, beat love down instead of letting love beat you up. And then he doesn't like the fact that Romeo won't fight Tybalt, and he gets very feisty about that and fights Tybalt, and unfortunately he ends up dead as well. Next is impervious. Elise was so confident that she was impervious to even the coldest insults. So this is a cause and effects context clue strategy. Because she was confident, insults would not bother her. If you are impervious to insults, you are incapable of being affected. You keep going as if nothing happened to you. Kind of think again of the Odyssey. Think of Odysseus when the when the haughty suitors are insulting him. He keeps going. He keeps his cool. He does not get back at them until the exact right time. He seems impervious to their insults. Resistant or invulnerable would be synonyms. The opposite would be vulnerable. Another way that we can use impervious as well is thinking about being impervious to pain. So obviously, if somebody walks on hot coals, they are impervious to the pain that their feet are feeling. So that's another way to use this word. Our next word is deplete. This is a verb. When a professional hockey player depletes his supply of electrolytes, he often consumes an energy drink to replenish them. So athletes can relate to this scenario, hockey or not. If your energy is depleted, then it is used up gradually. You're emptied out, you're exhausted, and so the opposite would be to replenish. So there are lots of ways to deplete yourself, usually with Gatorade, or to replenish yourself, usually with Gatorade or something like that. Here's a picture. This guy is totally depleted. It looks like he's at work. He's got his computer, his calculator, lots of papers, his phone. Maybe he had a report due for work and he's been up all hours, and so he has totally lost his energy. He is depleted. You guys might feel like this at exam time or when you have lots of projects coming due. Our next word is gull. Now, of course, you're thinking of the seagull, but this is a totally different meaning of the bird. These days, with all the advances in sales techniques, it is difficult to figure out who is telling the truth and who is trying to gull you. So you're going to use the opposite context clue strategy for this. It's actually similar to chicanery, the same type of meaning, except chicanery is a noun and gull is a verb form of the same meaning. If you gull someone, you are cheating them, you're fooling them, you're hoaxing them, you are duping them, you are scamming them, you are tricking them. So a lot of times on the internet or even in magazines or on TV, you see these types of ads. This is a perfect example of somebody who is about to be gulled. Were you recently laid off? Get a free $500 check. Participation required. Click for details. Okay, so obviously this is a scam because nothing is free in this life, and who knows what you have to do to get this $500 check even though it says it's free. There's obviously going to be strings attached. Our next word is farcical. This is a describing word, so it's an adjective. When the leading man slipped on a banana peel, the movie turned farcical. Okay, so if a movie is farcical, if a TV show is farcical, it's absurd, it's ridiculously clumsy, it's kind of like slapstick humor, it's ludicrous. The opposite would be somber or serious. So here's a picture. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Three Stooges, but I used to watch reruns of The Three Stooges when I was in elementary school, when would get home from school. So just kind of slapstick, crazy humor with Moe, Larry, and Curly. And, maybe think of some other movies. If you've ever seen the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is actually a takeoff on the Odyssey. There's one in the movie theaters right now, Hail Caesar. That would be considered farcical as well. So if you're in the mood to laugh, this is the type of movie that you need to watch. Next is nadir. This is a noun. Some people cannot appreciate the top until after they have hit the nadir. So we're going to use the opposite context clue strategy to figure out what nadir means. Top would be the opposite of nadir. So nadir is your lowest point. It's the bottom. The opposite would be the peak, the zenith, the climax, the high point. Here's a great quote, and this actually makes me think of our Spiritual Life conference that we had recently. It's a quote from C.S. Lewis. God allows us to experience the low points, the nadir of life, in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. And that is so true. Through these low points, through the nadir of our spiritual journey, we often grow closer to God. He uses those experiences to change us. Next is penchant. This is a noun because I have a penchant for Mexican food, and that is true. We ate at Papa's and Beer for my birthday dinner. So this is going to be something that you like. In this case, the context is food. Of course, you could have other penchants besides food, fondness, inclination, taste. Another thing I have a penchant for is reading, or obviously I wouldn't be an English teacher. The opposite would be dislike or abhorrence. A lot of you guys have a penchant for sports, for multiple sports, football, baseball, track, soccer. Here's a perfect example which illustrates penchant. If you are a Sesame Street fan, you know that Cookie Monster has a penchant for cookies. He's always wanting cookies, although I guess now with our health conscious society, maybe Cookie Monster shouldn't be eating so many cookies. Next is adjunct. This is a describing word, so it's an adjective. The doctor made aspirin the adjunct treatment to be used with the penicillin he prescribed for the patient. So the main medication is the penicillin because that's going to get rid of the bacteria that's causing the infection. The aspirin is like a side treatment because it's going to help relieve the symptoms, the fever, maybe the aches and pains, but it's not going to heal the patient. That's what the penicillin is going to do. So an adjunct is connected or attached to in a dependent subordinate, so not in charge, or auxiliary manner to the side, but not a part of. So it doesn't heal the patient, but it helps the patient with some of those annoying symptoms. Another way that adjunct is used is to speak about teachers at schools. Usually this is seen in a college scenario. Sometimes we have teachers who come in and they mainly teach one or two courses, but they are not full-time professors. And so there's kind of a negative connotation about this because they're not seen as a professor that's there all the time. So they don't get the same benefits, maybe the same prestige, the same pay. People kind of look down upon them because they're not a full-time professor. So you see some of these kind of negative connotations here, in particular the last one, hey you, because we don't even know their name all of the time since they're not full-time professors. Next is filial, another describing word. This would be a bad situation. Hopefully your mother would never do this to you. John's mother tested his filial loyalty by crashing his prized car. I can't imagine a mom doing that. Anyways, filial has to do with the relationship a son or daughter have with their parents. So she's testing to see whether he's going to be loyal to her as a son, even though she's done this horrible thing. Think of 10 Commandments. Think of the commandment that we are to honor our father and mother. That would be related to filial loyalty. I know that filial loyalty is a big deal in Asian culture. Honoring your mother and father. I believe that's called filial piety, showing them your respect and honor, no matter how old you are, even as an adult. Next is mitigate. Nothing Peter could do would mitigate the harsh punishment. So it's a verb. He's done something and he's gotten in trouble for it, and he's trying to make the punishment maybe less severe, but no one's listening to him. Those who have given him the punishment are not changing their minds. If you mitigate something, you make it less severe, to become milder. You diminish it, you alleviate it. A lot of times we use this in the context of pain. If you have a bad headache, you try and mitigate it by taking Motrin, Tylenol, Excedrin. You try and lessen the pain. The opposite would be aggravate or exacerbate. So here's a great picture. A lot of you can probably relate to this. You get some type of injury and you put an ice pack on it. You use the ice to mitigate the swelling, to lessen the swelling, to hopefully diminish the pain you are feeling in your knee or wherever you get the injury. So this takes us to the end of our lesson 15 words. Do not forget to put your honor pledge on exercise 1 for lesson 15.